One of the problems with the SPAC thesis that's been going on for Palantir is that they've invested in crappy companies and they're buying revenue from these crappy companies. And these crappy companies are all, pump and dump SPACs. And Palantir just found a way to buy revenue to make it look good on their balance sheets. But at the end of the day, they're not actually growing. Well, I've done a couple of videos saying that this is a myth. Doesn't make any sense. We just did a video this week on Black Sky, which is literally doing geospatial intelligence from their satellites that are in the sky, finding images of what's going on in Russia and Ukraine. Like, that's the type of stuff that Palantir is invested in. One of my main arguments for why the Palantir SPAC thesis is actually amazing is because Palantir is focusing on companies that are actually innovating, that are actually building on top of this Palantir Foundry software, and that because of that innovation, they're actually going to be able to do amazing things in a world in which legacy companies don't get the Palantir software, don't get that these are data problems, so they don't buy the software. So it's much more easier to sell to a company that actually understands, oh, wait, with this software, we can do a lot of stuff. We can create new products. We can change the world. And then Palantir gets an equity stake along with a client and customer from that SPAC in and of itself. So let's go to the website right here. Lilium. I did a video on this a while back in the days when I was starting YouTube in November. Lilium. Lilium is an electric jet company. Let me go to their website right now. And then I want to read a little bit off the press release that they just came out. Yes, electric jets, building radically better ways of moving with sustainable jets. This stuff you see right here, these are sustainable energy jets. They don't use gas in order to get into the sky, which is a very hard thing to do, to get into the sky without gas. Lilium just came out with a shareholder letter, and they announced that they have a prospective sale of about 150 Lilium jets plus related and aftermarket services for the largest jet company in the world, NetJets. Meaning they just got a contract to create 150 jets, electric jets, for an entirely new company, or the world's largest, biggest private jet company, which is NetJets. Why does this matter? And then we'll go back into Lilium for a little bit. First of all, when I saw this news, I thought it was very interesting because I was like, wait a second. So Palantir invested in a company, because I forgot about Lilium. There's a lot of stuff that's going on, right? And then I saw this news the other day. I was like, wait a second. Palantir invested in Lilium. Why did Palantir invest in Lilium? Well, if you're making an electric jet, it's pretty cool to invest in. On top of that, that's a data problem. Like all of these things, the new world that we're getting into, it's a data problem. It's an AI problem. It's an IoT problem. These are all problems that Foundry can become in a modern operating system to be able to solve. That's why it's not like Snowflake, which is just hosting data. It's not like AWS, which is just cloud computing. It is a much more sophisticated product, and that's why it took 17 years to build. It's not easy to build this type of stuff. So when they give their product to something like Lilium that has a data problem when it comes to being able to make electric jets actually fly in the sky, you start to notice, wait a second, if this company could become one of the premier electric jet creators in the world, one of them, because there's some other competitors, but there's not that many people making electric airplanes. What happens when Lilium one day actually makes a Boeing 737 level plane that's electric? Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen anytime soon. I know that's incredibly difficult, but these are the bets that Palantir is taking, and they don't need to become the next Boeing for Palantir to get a very meaningful equity stake, for revenue to look really nice on their next quarters going forward, especially when Lilium is making 150 electric jets for one of the biggest private jet companies in the world. When you see news come out like that, to me, it shows that Palantir made a good decision investing in some of these SPACs. Now, I'm coming out with a video a little bit later about one of the SPACs that I don't understand why they invested in, called Faraday Future, especially because they've been going through some controversy over the past couple of days, or past couple of weeks. But for the most part, a majority of these SPACs they invested in are doing very, very innovative stuff. Now, the markets are not going to be nice to them, because the markets are the markets, and growth stocks are getting hammered right now. And if you're a SPAC, you're not going to be liked in the market right now, especially because there's a lot of Chamath Palihapitiya stains over SPACs. That's why SoFi, I think, is also doing so bad, because it's got a little bit of the Chamath stain. Not that Chamath's a bad person, but nonetheless, if it's a SPAC, it's not going to do well. But if it grows, and when we get out of this bearish world that we're in and we start getting back to growth stocks and the bull market starts continuing, you can expect a lot of these SPACs, I think, to do well, and for Palantir to do well as a result of them investing in SPACs, which is why I think it's such an innovative company. Now, let's look a little bit at this video. The world's first electric eVTOL jet. Let's go back to the main area. Let's watch this.
So here at Lilium, we are developing the world's first entirely electric vertical takeoff and landing jet. we want to establish and build a new means of transportation.
Although you're working on it every day, you still got these moments where you think, wow, that is something really, really cool that we're doing here, and it just feels amazing to be actually a really big part of that.
So you have an airplane that takes off vertically like a helicopter. But once it's in the air, it accelerates into forward flight and flies with wing-borne lift. And this way it achieves much higher speeds than cars, but also higher speeds than a helicopter. So connectivity is what it's all about.
I mean, goodness, just like talk about inspiration. Like you look at that and you're like, well, if they're trying to create something that doesn't, they're trying to innovate in an industry that they could potentially have a monopoly over, them and a couple of other people, right? Because not a lot of companies are doing electric jets and they're finding all these unique ways to actually be able to create it. Well, it makes sense why Palantir invested in them, because Palantir saw something in them that they don't see in a lot of other companies, and they're like, wait a second, these guys can actually do something good. We can get an equity stake. They can build their entire platforms off top of Foundry. First of all, I get inspired by stuff like that. Maybe that I'm just a little bit of an emotional person, but when I see people going after a vision that doesn't exist, working tirelessly just to make it a reality in a world in which, most people crap on your dreams and your realities, like I get inspired by that. And I know we're talking business, but when Palantir is trying to say, hey, we're trying to be a modern operating system for the entire world, we're trying to technologically advance the way enterprises, organizations, governments do business and do decisions, it starts to make a lot of sense why they invest in companies like that. And I think the people that like hate on the SPAC arguments or like and spew this nonsense about the SPACs, they're not getting why they invested in these SPACs in the first place. Again, I've said this over and over. These are not pump and dump SPACs, venture capital fund. You'll just put $1 million into 100 companies, hope one of them is the next Instagram. This is, let's strategically partner with companies that are using our platform to manage the data-driven operations, become the digital backbone of their operations. And when they get big, we're going to get big. And when they get big in an industry, they're only going to be big because of us, which means all their other competitors are going to have to use us, which means it's just going to explode market share. Like, this is a thesis, along with many other theses about this company, that I'm very bullish on and that I think can perform extremely well over the next 5-6 years, as long as these SPACs grow at the level that they need to grow as well. And I think when the market stops being bearish against all of them, there will be a good chance for that to happen. So Lilium, Palantir SPAC, 150 jets that it just got ordered to make. Really, really interesting stuff. I'll leave some of the links in the description. Let me know what you guys think about Lilium. I did a video about it a while ago, but I haven't explored Lilium over a long time, but it was just really interesting. I remember in November when I did the video about like an electric jet that Palantir invested in. Super cool stuff. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I will see you guys in the next one.